Ave Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. One of the 12, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What are you willing to give me if I hand him over to you?" They paid him 30 pieces of silver. And from that time on, he looked for an opportunity to hand him over. On the first day of the feast of the unleavened bread, the disciples approached Jesus and said, "Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and tell him, 'The teacher says, my appointed time draws near. In your house I shall celebrate the Passover with my disciples.'" The disciples did as Jesus had ordered and prepared the Passover. When it was evening, he reclined at table with the 12. While they were eating, he said, "Amen, I say to you, one of you will betray me." Deeply distressed at this, they began to say to him, one after the other, "Surely it is not I, Lord." He said in reply, "He who has dipped his hand into the dish with me is the one who will betray me. The Son of Man indeed goes as it is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would be better for that man if he had never been born." Then Judas, his betrayer, said in reply, "Surely it is not I, Rabbi." He answered, "You have said so." The Gospel of the Lord. In a very discreet manner again, Jesus is trying to coax Judas to come into the light. When the disciples saw this, they were, "One of you will betray me." And all the disciples, if you read the text in the Gospel of Matthew, all of the disciples were in agreement with Judas on persecuting the woman with the alabaster jar filled with perfume oils. They were all against this. They thought it was too extravagant. And when the disciples saw this, they were indignant, it says in the text. So it's not just Judas, but Jesus knows who it really is. And so Judas Iscariot went out to the chief priests, and "What are you willing to give me?" he would say to them. And they paid him 30 pieces of silver. He's invested. And Jesus knows. Yet, Jesus continues to coax him to see if he can come out of this stupor of betrayal. "Truly one of you will betray me." He never says Judas, but he's speaking to the whole group. And he is speaking to the group because, yes, they were all in line with Judas about being at odds with the woman with the perfumed oil jar. "Is it I, Lord?" the disciples say. This is interesting. Is it I, Lord? They're feeling guilt. They know what the predicament is. They know what they've done, and they know of the accusations they've made that contradict Jesus. Is it I, Lord? Is it I, Lord? And feeling guilty over that criticism with the ointment. And so Jesus gives all the apostles an opportunity here to come clean. which they eventually do. On the other hand, Judas, he's peculiar. Instead of saying, "Is it I, Lord?" he says, "Is it I, Rabbi?" In other words, he's not seeing Jesus as Lord. He's not seeing Jesus as God. He's seeing Jesus as a teacher. And seeing Jesus as a teacher, it's not so bad to be critical of a teacher as it is the Lord God. And seeing Jesus as a teacher gives him license to tell himself, Jesus is a little errant here on his teachings, and he needs to be silenced. And so Jesus opens the door, however, to Judas for a reconciliation, because Jesus creates an opportunity for Judas to come clean. When he says, "Is it I, Rabbi?" Jesus says to him again, "You said it." He's incriminated himself, but at the same time, his response is given to Jesus, and he is extending his mercy. But Judas refuses to receive the mercy. How tragic for Judas. How tragic it is when we pass up opportunities to experience the mercy of Jesus. This also tells us that even though the apostles were complicit, Jesus was very, very generous in pouring out his mercy upon them just the same. Judas, however, was not willing to receive the grace. We cannot allow ourselves to become so embedded in our guilt that we become frightened to ask for mercy. And so Jesus would say to us in the Gospel of John, "I will not refuse anyone who comes to me." That applies to all of us. It applied to Judas. It applied to the apostles. It applies to us. And so we trust in God's mercy.
Regina Celi, letare, alleluia, qui aquam meruisti portare, alleluia, resurrexit sicut dixit, alleluia, ora pro nobis Deum, alleluia.